And I'm sorry to pin you up onto the main screen. I did this with Miles without telling you, and half of the just popped up there. But yeah, good to have you, Matty. I think a really good starting point, something we did similar with Miles as well, would be it'd be great to understand your background and what you've done so far and how you've ended up, I guess, within the Fearless landscape.
Yeah, sure. So, I'll give you like a very brief kind of introduction to myself. Firstly, of how I started working within Fearless and everything else. So, I started my first proper business when I was 18. So, a company called The Wardrobe Outlet, which was essentially an online retailer that I started. Built a really, really awful website myself, and stuck some keyrings on there that I bought from China, and kind of started from there. Is how I got going. So essentially bought about £100 worth of keyrings and sold them for 200, and then bought some more stock for £200 and sold it for more. That's pretty much how the business started. There wasn't a grand idea, no kind of grand vision. It was just something that I started in university because I thought it might be fun and I can earn some extra money. Kind of just started and built it from there. So the business was kind of fully bootstrapped. So there was no funding gone into the business from any kind of rich parents, which I definitely don't have, and any other kind of investment that I didn't kind of get. I was very fortunate to get a job in a warehouse through a really great mentor who taught me a lot about business and a lot about how to scale up, things like Facebook advertising that I know you guys are doing a lot on, and kind of just learn and self-taught all of that. I don't have any form of traditional marketing background, but was kind of self-taught. I was very lucky to have a mentor that kind of give me a bit of a leg up and a lot of really, really good gems of knowledge as well, which was great. So basically built that business up to quite a decent level. And in the last kind of 2 years prior for that, built it up to a nice level, and got to the stage where I built like a small team of 3 or 4 people in a warehouse who were picking and packaging my orders up. But it was getting too much. There's only kind of so many favors that you can ask your mum and your grandparents and siblings, cousins, everybody to kind of come down and help in the warehouse until it gets a bit ridiculous and you have to hire your own staff, which I did and went through that process. But kind of found out realistically that if we were going to go to the next level, we needed more kind of technology, software, and a larger warehouse facility of something called a fulfillment center, which is where I wanted to move in next. So from the back of having those chats with 10 of the leading fulfillment centers in the UK, I wasn't overly impressed by anyone that I kind of saw. So for anybody who doesn't know, a fulfillment center is a fancy word for a warehouse building that ships out orders. It's not the most grand business in the world, but essentially what we do is we house the e-commerce businesses' orders and house all of their stock, and then ship out their orders through the likes of Amazon and the website. We look after the end-to-end process with like couriers like Royal Mail, and we kind of pick, pack, and facilitate all of their orders. So I had the idea to do one of them because I looked out into the market and basically thought that nobody is kind of doing this in a transparent way and offering kind of genuine support to other founders, and thought I may be able to do it a little bit different and a little bit better. So I pitched the idea to Fearless Adventures, and we kind of co-founded a new business together called Fearless Fulfilment, which launched about 12 months ago, based up in the north. If you can tell from the slightly scally accent that I've got, I'm from Bolton, so we have a warehouse around there, if any of you know that area. And we're shipping about 10 to 20,000 parcels a month out of there at the moment. So very brief intro, but that's kind of me and what I do.
Amazing. A quick question, actually. Yeah, we can jump straight into that one. What was your experience pitching to Fearless Adventures? How did you find that? Was I involved in that call? I can't remember if I was involved in that first call.
It was. I pitched on a call, which was the first time I'd ever done one of those calls, actually, and pitching for my kind of first business, and got quite far down the line with that and realised that I probably didn't want to do it for the next kind of 10 years. So it was quite a strange U-turn that I had when they were kind of offering some form of investment. And I said, actually, I don't really think this is the right business for it. The actual pitching process is less daunting than you think, because the reality of it isn't like a Dragon's Den when you're actually pitching an investment. You don't stand up there with a big pitch and have all of these things to say and have only 2 minutes to kind of pitch things. It was a lot more kind of off the cuff and relaxed than what you actually think. So I never had any form of like investment deck or any form of investment paperwork or anything like that I turned up with. I only turned up with a notepad and a few notes, kind of said my story and what I'd done so far and my idea. Had a load of questions and yeah, luckily they backed me that the idea was good enough to require funding. But the actual process isn't as daunting as what most people kind of think.
Yeah, it's interesting to get the two perspectives, because obviously we had Miles last week who's gone through the Dragon's Den process, so his view on raising will be slightly different. Just one that's come through the chat as well. Sorry, just getting a bit of feedback. If everyone's able to mute themselves when not talking, that'd be useful, just so that there's no feedback. What skills and qualities are you looking for when you're building your teams?
Sorry, mate, I lost you for the last kind of 30 seconds there, but I think I got that question at the end. Can you just repeat the question again, mate? Sorry.
Yeah, it was just regarding what skills and qualities you look for when you're building your teams.
I think a lot of it is kind of complementary skills. So for me, I'm not as the people who are in this call who have worked with me know, I am terrible with detail. So anything that is detail focused and detail orientated, or anything to do with Excel, I really don't like, and quite frankly very bad at doing anything like that. So kind of look for people that complement my skill set really well, and people who are better than me at the things that I kind of need help with. So kind of being self-aware enough to say that you're not going to be good at everything. I'm very, very average at most things, and a lot of the things that we've been able to scale have just been because we've hired really, really excellent people who are great at doing their role and doing their kind of part. So I think a lot of it is going off kind of experiences of not trying to hire people who are like you and trying to hire people who are better than you in their specific field. And then the only other thing is going with your gut. The only time I've kind of got hiring wrong is kind of when I've had a gut feel about something or someone and not kind of gone with that. So that's the only other advice I'd kind of give is go with what you think and go with your gut. And whatever the interview experience is, you're not going to get it right every single time. It's just the nature of hiring. So yeah, in my limited experience of doing that over the last few years, that would be the key takeaways, I think.
Amazing. And I know you've done, you mentioned kind of the combination of both bootstrapping your first company, but then you've also gone through rounds of investment. And of course, with Fearless Fulfilment, there's been investment put into that. So what are your advice and I guess your view on bootstrapping a business versus investment? And do you find that it's best to do bootstrap first and then raise? How do you view that?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think in the early stages, I didn't know what investment was, so I didn't really have a choice because I didn't really know what it was or if there was, how I'd actually get investment from anybody. I think bootstrapping is a great way to learn because it's very, very easy to spend money if you kind of have it. So if you have like a bank loan come in and you see like money that's not really yours kind of sitting in the bank, you feel kind of obligated to spend it. But bootstrapping, every single penny kind of counts. So there's a lot of learnings that you can kind of take away from bootstrapping a business. So I'd advise if you can to do that, especially if it's something that you kind of really believe in, you think has kind of longevity, unless you can kind of find the right partner to come on board. That kind of matches your skill set outside of finance, because finance will always kind of be readily available through other means. So for my business, I didn't take investment, but I did take, HSBC overdrafts and bank loans and stuff like that for the first business when they got available to me. But on the flip side of that, I think investment is necessary for certain businesses in certain sectors. Fulfilment is a great example. So I couldn't bootstrap a fulfilment business to the scale that we have done without investment, because we needed quite a lot of money to build the infrastructure to do it. But in the age that we're in now, it's for people who are starting e-commerce businesses and stuff like that, the barrier to entry is just so low that we can all kind of, get a start of a £25 a month Shopify subscription and just get going and get selling stuff. That isn't like a mass barrier to entry like in, 99 and 2000 when you had to pay £100,000 for a website. It doesn't doesn't act like that anymore. So yeah, I think that's probably my key takeaway from it.
Cheers. And obviously, as we are a marketing focused course, it'd be wrong of me not to ask, but how have you found scaling your first business and the marketing tools you used for that versus where you are today? And have you found that different channels are now reacting differently? Have things changed?
Yeah, it's really interesting because in the first business, the wardrobe outlet, 100% of the ad spend that we had was on Facebook and Instagram. So kind of like, again, self-taught, a lot of YouTube videos out there that are really good and that you don't have to pay for, through courses and stuff like that on YouTube where you can kind of learn the basics of how to set things up. And it can not as complicated as some people will try and make you believe. And Facebook and Instagram is a great way to learn and do that. But actually, the majority of ad spend that we have now for the e-commerce businesses is more Google. So yeah, understanding that PPC a little bit more, which I believe you've been doing today, is a great way to kind of understand the data a lot more. But I think from a marketing angle as well, the biggest thing that I've kind of learned is that a lot of the time the marketing is kind of the crown jewel and the piece, but actually the underlying offer that you kind of have for people on the website when you get somebody to click through that marketing is a lot of the time a lot more important than the marketing itself. So building out your product, building out your offering, building out everything like that can be, just as, if not more important than the marketing itself. And the marketing becomes a lot cheaper and a lot easier once you get those kind of fundamental building blocks right.
Brilliant, cheers. And then I was going to ask you a little bit more of a difficult question, I guess, but we see a lot of the highlights and positives of entrepreneurship, starting your own business and everything. But I was going to ask, like, what's been the toughest moments for you? What have you had to endure, and what skills, I guess, have helped you with that?
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy thing. And what about not as glamorous as some people kind of make it sound. I mean, in the early days, we had so much go wrong. Like in the first 12 months, like I can't even begin to explain how many things went wrong. Like from things like the warehouse little unit that I had flooded, and most of the stock got damaged. We had times when the website provider Shopify stopped payments for 2 weeks and I couldn't pay staff. Too many money issues to even count and go into. We missed countless bills, missed countless rent payments, been so close to playing on the line so many times when it comes to financial problems, and usually the biggest ones because there wasn't any money available, so kind of had to sell my way out of a lot of problems. So times when on a Monday we've needed 10 grand bills to be paid on Friday and we've had negative £100 in the bank, which is a real story, and somehow kind of managed to be able to pay that bill. So yeah, financially is usually the biggest issues that you kind of have. And yeah, so many other issues that I could kind of talk about all day long, really, like on a weekly basis still now.
Yeah, but then I guess fitting is a follow-up question from Tina's. But what about cost for business, like accounting and filing accounts? Did you do that yourself, or did you have people that you can lean on? So any tips and tricks for that when you're kicking off?
Yeah, that's a great question, and something that is definitely worth mentioning because I got incredibly lucky with the accountancy. So my mum is an accountant by trade, so got extremely lucky that for the first 2 years I got kind of free accountancy from my mum, which was a huge leg up, and something that I'm very grateful for, because she gave me the stability to kind of go and just do what I'm good at, which is the selling, and she kind of handled a lot of the back end, which was an amazing privilege.
And then just off the back of that one was, did you work on your business full time from the start, or did that kind of ease into it?
No, I didn't. So I worked actually in a warehouse myself. So when I was in university, kind of at 18, 19, I worked in a warehouse myself. So actually in a fulfilment center back then. So I did about 40, 50 hours a week in the fulfillment center. And then I did little bits of sales on the side for my business. But it took about a year for me to go in full time. And then I actually had to go back to work at the start of COVID at the same place part time because I ran out of money again. And then had to, go back again full time. And luckily I haven't gone back since.
And then just, you touched on that massive bill. How did that actually come about in the end? How did you work around the payment of it? Was that just a stressful week of getting everything out the door, sales?
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. It was a case that we had on the Monday, we had like direct debits come out from like Royal Mail as like our courier partner. So we had like $8,000 come out from that, and a few other bills that I didn't kind of forecast for because the forecasting that I had was terrible. It was just all on like a notepad when bills were kind of coming out. So the way that we paid it was we put Facebook ads on a credit card, and I'm not advising this for 1 second to kind of do this because it's not the way to do things, but kind of put a lot of Facebook ads on a credit card, and we ended up doing about 20 grand in sales that week, which is our biggest week ever, and managed to just about kind of pay those bills. But there's been so many times other than that are less extreme in the earlier stages when it was a case of my little storage unit was £125 a month, and I missed the bill for that loads and loads of times because we didn't have any money. There's so many stories like that when it comes to the financial side. But a lot of the time it kind of just comes down to selling more stuff is the only way to get out of problems like that.
Yeah, makes sense. And I know you've been working with Anita quite a lot on your website as well at the moment and having a look at customer journey. So a question that we've had come through from Jake was how have you used customer feedback to improve your business?
Yeah, so for the customer service thing, it's really about keeping a track of the data. So something in like the earlier stages. So for the first kind of 20,000 orders that we had on the website, I picked and packed all of them myself with some of the help from, like I said before, like parents and siblings and stuff like that. But a lot of it was kind of done myself and done internally. So you do learn a lot actually from doing that journey yourself. So from picking and packaging your own orders up, understanding your product really, really well, that's a great way to do it. But also doing the customer service yourself in the early stages. It's not, in my opinion, something that you should be outsourcing in the early stages, and really getting to understand the feedback of what your customers are actually saying and what they're actually wanting, and really, really listening to the feedback for what they're giving you. So good, bad, take it all in and make sure that you keep a track of it. So I just had like a really simple kind of sheet that I kept of any feedback that came in, if it was good or bad. And then if it was something that we could fix, I'd try and figure out a way to fix it. Keeping a track of the data from a customer journey side.
Perfect. And do you remember by any chance when you were first going, how you set up the company from a legal perspective? Was it like a self-employed, or was it an entity in itself?
Yeah, it was a limited company. So we just set up a limited company on the government website. Really, it took 10 minutes, cost 20 quid. Anybody can do it. Like that's the way to go, especially if you're not selling services and you have a physical product. I'd recommend a limited company. And the only other thing I'd say on it is I just asked loads of questions to people. So my old boss happily helped me out with that, incorporating the business, and some other small business owners that were kind of in the area. I kind of went in and asked their advice as well. So I think just asking advice of people who are doing it. It doesn't have to be, people who have massive businesses. I was getting advice from people who were doing, really, really small businesses, who are super, super helpful in the start from incorporating the businesses.
Brilliant. And then we've got two just on the back, I guess, of the meta conversations being had before. But what are some tips that you can give for effective marketing on Meta and improving sales?
I think the biggest one that I learned was I hired a marketing agency probably about 2 years ago now, on a ridiculous rate, and it was a huge financial mistake. And they put a lot of fancy things in the system and new ads that I kind of never done before, and a lot of trial and error. But the most simple way is building out the offer. So I think the biggest thing with marketing is what do you want people to do? So for me, as I said, I don't have any kind of traditional marketing background whatsoever. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned is you want people to kind of understand what to do right now. So for me and my business, we were only as ever good as our kind of last offer. So when somebody comes on the website, we want somebody to buy it, and we want somebody to buy it like now. So giving like a deal which is really, really good value for the customer and providing kind of true value is the easiest way to market anything, rather than any of the kind of fancy techniques and things that are kind of ever changing. The marketing landscape are really important, but it all comes back to like the fundamentals of what you're selling. Is it good value for the customer, and do you create some form of urgency to buy it? So whether that's, you know, low stock, or, you know, the offer only runs to a certain time, or something free shipping, whatever that is, you kind of want to build in loads of triggers along the way that kind of help people to make that buying decision, or whatever decision you want them to make, and make it in a timely time frame, really.
Perfect. And then it was, I guess, kind of off the back of what you're just saying there, but did you have any experience before on running Facebook ads? You know, achieving 20K in a week is obviously a good result, and I guess more so in the last couple of years, but becoming profitable just off of Facebook alone is difficult these days. So how did you find the initial ways of running Facebook versus now?
Yeah, so I in answer to the first question, I didn't have any experience on it. For me, it just came from watching YouTube videos of how to set them up. And then the first couple of ads we did were absolutely awful. Didn't make any money, lost loads of money on the first kind of 5 or 6 different ads. And then we just had one that clicked really well around Black Friday, and then learned from that one. So it's just, for me, it was all about just kind of taking in the lessons of what was working and what wasn't. But yeah, I didn't hire an agency in the first few years. I didn't work with anybody in a traditional marketing background. Yeah, it was more just kind of fully self-taught. So watching YouTube videos, watching, you know, searching things on Google about things that worked. And you don't need to pay for that stuff. I can't make that clear enough. You don't need to pay for a course that somebody's selling from like just Facebook ads, which you see a lot of people kind of selling on Instagram and stuff, which is like a get rich quick thing of like, you know, learn Facebook ads in 20 minutes and it's £500 a course. Most of the time that stuff is kind of common knowledge. So I'd say a lot of it can be self-taught, and there's some really good kind of resources to help you do that. I think Shopify has their own YouTube channel, which is really good, as one resource that I'd heavily recommend. But yeah, all self-taught.
Perfect. And then going back to the limited liability company, is there any particular time that you find it's best to, you know, register your business versus, I guess, just testing out to begin with, and then just making that decision?
I guess it depends on the business, what you're doing. If you're selling a physical product, I don't see the kind of risk of starting a company and starting something on company's house is quite low risk. I mean, the worst that you can do is I've had, you know, multiple business ideas that have kind of gone onto company's house, and I've just disbanded the company if I didn't want to do it anymore. But yeah, I don't think there's really any risk behind that.
Yeah, no worries. And this will be an interesting one. So would you recommend discounting offers? How much would this impact on your margins? And it's interesting because Ant, obviously, who you guys have been taught by today, he's not always the biggest fan of discounts. But I know it's a big part of your first business. So what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I disagree with him, and we have conversations about it all the time, to be honest. So I think, discount is a great way to get people to do something that you want them to do. So, you know, for us, from the first business that we had, everything was discounted. It was a discounted retailer, so obviously I'm quite kind of biased on that. And it doesn't always have to be discounts. It can be, you know, things like bundles, or just making the customer experience kind of better. I think a lot of the time there's like a snobbery that kind of comes with not wanting to discount products and not wanting to discount services, which sometimes is valid and true. But I think for a lot of businesses, kind of discounting products is just a great way to get the first customer hooked. And if, you know, they're confident in the product, getting them over the line that first time to kind of buy and buy again, is a great way to get started, I think.
Perfect. We have had a question regarding your first ad, if it's possible to see it. I'm not sure if Facebook you can go back and see historical ads, but if you do have it anywhere,
I would love to show. I would love to show that somehow. If I can find it after this, I'll put it in. I'll send it to Dan, and you can take a look at it. But it is terrible, like really terrible. Yeah, it's like an image that I kind of took on my phone, and then a really bad graphic that I did on some dodgy Apple app at some point. So yeah, it'll be a terrible one. If I can find it, I'll send that over.
Amazing. And then what was your very first step that you took to get your brand up and running? And what marketing strategy did you use for creating brand awareness?
Kind of just setting up the Instagram page was the biggest thing. So getting kind of friends and family to follow that, and kind of just building it up over time and being consistent. I mean, on the original kind of Instagram page, we posted like hundreds and hundreds of times. I probably got like 1 or 2 likes on all the images, and then over time you just start to get more and more. It's just about consistently doing it from an organic perspective. So when you start to do paid ads and stuff, there's kind of something there to back up your brand. That's probably what I'd say on
that. Perfect. And then we don't seem to have any more questions coming through at the chat at the moment. So if anyone's got any that they're wanting to shout out, feel free to unmute yourself, ask Matty. I'll wait for a couple more to come through. I'm not letting you.
Can I ask a question? I'm curious about the products that you sell. So how did you get to the point where you're confident that this is a product line that you want to push for, or have you had products where you had to kill them because they're not selling? Or
Yes, yeah, definitely had to do that. So the way that I always did it in the first business was just do things like really low risk. So the way that I'd kind of trial a product as an example, we had a football shirt kind of mystery box on the first one that we did. So I literally bought 10 of them from Sports Direct and put them on the website, and then kind of sold them that way. And then once the product worked, I went and bought kind of more from wholesalers and stuff like that. So I think it's just about you don't need to put loads and loads of money and buy loads of stock to kind of test something. You can do it on a really micro level from organic and asking friends and family what do they think, and do it through like organic before you push anything into paid. Especially as you build up a database of your own customers as well, was the way that we'd send out like an email marketing campaign to our customers of a new product, and if it didn't do well, then we'd kill the product very quickly and wouldn't put paid spend behind it. So it's just about trialing it without huge risk.
Thank you.
And then we just had a couple more come in. Would you build up organic before paid?
I think building out organic content is really important. As much as it feels like you're kind of doing it without any real reward, but pushing organic content is important before you do paid, definitely, even if it's just a small amount, because when you're pushing through paid content, you want people to go on your organic socials and see something there. So anything like customer testimonials or anything that would be a good representation of your brand, just so you have something there. But there's not loads and loads of sales that will kind of come through organic marketing in most cases. At least for me in the early stages, that definitely wasn't the case.
Yeah, definitely. I always think as well with organic, it's just a good opportunity to create content, which you can then put spend behind if necessary and if it's the right move to do. We do see, especially if you guys are on TikTok and on that, the content that does really well is user-generated content. So you want to be kind of creating that yourself or using content creators to help you with that, and then you can put paid spend behind it. And then just a couple more. So what was the time frame for organic growth for you? Or was it all largely paid?
The organic growth was really slow. So like organic growth from like a revenue perspective was really slow. So we launched on like eBay and a couple of other kind of like smaller marketplaces really. For like the keyrings that we had in the first kind of product launch that we did were just keyring. So that was really slow. And then once we got our kind of first bulk of product in, after that we'd sort of started to push more money into paid ads once we'd kind of have stock to it really. But it was kind of slow. Like after the business was incorporated, we probably didn't do paid ads for the first kind of like 3 or 4 months. It was just building up organically, really slow through friends, family, organic content, and then marketplaces as well. Was another good one.
Perfect. And in regards to once you've got the traffic to your website, so using Facebook to drive that, how did you capture emails? What kind of methods did you use?
Just use like a Klaviyo pop-up. So Klaviyo is just a Shopify app, which is free, so you can get that onto Shopify, and that would just be a pop-up, so customers could kind of select and go on and get 10% off the first order. You just get them to capture that. So we have on my first business, we have like 40,000 customers, 45,000 customers, I think, on the database, but only about 30,000 orders. So you probably have quite a lot of people that come on and don't actually buy anything but get a part of your database, and you can kind of market to them over time. Was something that I got quite wrong. I didn't really utilize that amount of people very well, and still don't utilize it very, very well, if I'm honest. It's something that I'm trying to improve on once you've built that database, to try and utilize it the best you can.
And we're going to step away from marketing a little bit and move on to your morals. Have you kept your mission statement and values incorporated into your businesses over the years?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, for the first business, the total honesty thing was we didn't, like, we have the same statement which has been on there since the start, but it wasn't like a massive. And the reason that I've kind of stepped a little bit away from that business, to be totally honest, was it wasn't kind of a true purpose business. It was just a business that I kind of set up because I thought, I could make some money and try and sell stuff, and it just grew really, really quickly. And I guess the new e-commerce business that I have is more, is more to do with kind of my fundamentals as a person, and a bit more me. But yeah, I think the mission statement for the wardrobe outlet was never ending development, which has never changed. And that kind of came from, just building everything day by day, just making 1% improvements all the time, from websites to marketing to packaging to everything, of just trying to make a little improvement every day over, the course of 2-3 years. It really, really adds up. Even if you feel like on that day, like there's not been any sales and you've spent 10 hours working on something, it can be quite demoralizing. So that's kind of where that statement's come from, and hopefully kind of stayed true over time, I think.
Amazing. We've just got a few more questions, if that's all right, and then we can let you go. But in terms of the first business, so the wardrobe outlet, have you kind of completely parked that for now? And are you focusing on fulfillment? What are you working on now?
Yeah, so it kind of ticks over in the background, but I kind of stepped away from running it really heavily probably 6-7 months ago, and it just kind of ticks away. So we don't have any paid spend on there at the moment, and just from the customers that we've had over the years, we just get a few orders a week that kind of get fulfilled in there. But the fulfillment business is a lot of my time, and then I started another e-commerce retailer which launched about a month ago, which is kind of those two things are my sort of full focus at the moment.
Perfect. And then have you found that if you stop constantly posting content, you see a dip in sales at all? I guess that comes back to paid versus organic, but do you find that has much of an impact on your sales?
Not really, honestly. Once you've built up a bank of it, I think something that really helped was with paid ads is having like stories on Instagram. So we used to have like daily stories of like people tagging us in there, like opening an order or something like that. We'd always share them, and then if that wasn't available, then things like customer reviews, publishing that to stories was also really helpful, just to try and build a bit of social proof. That was always really, really helpful. And then I guess organic content over time, once you get people following you from paid ads, you kind of want to keep reminding them softly of what you're doing, and your product, and building up social proof. So I guess you kind of do see a little dip, but kind of hard to measure, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think you've touched on this at the start, but in terms of how you paid for your initial stock, that was you purchased a certain amount of key rings, right? And then you just kept on using the revenue being generated to put back into stock.
Yeah, so it was just literally as simple as bought some key rings from Alibaba and sold them for more money. But then that was like the initial funding into the business was £300. Like, it wasn't a mass amount of money at the time. It was, just chucking the £300 into it and seeing if I could make something work. But then over time, I had to keep putting all of my money from my warehouse job into the business to keep it alive at certain points. So, working the hours in there and then putting all of that wage kind of straight into the business, really, to kind of buy more stock and facilitate it until I could get things like a business overdraft and stuff like that. And then even after that, honestly, I kind of put every single penny that I ever had into it, especially in the first 12 months. There was a lot of sacrifice that kind of came with that, because it was just all the salary that I kind of earned from working my warehouse job just went straight into the business, and very, very little for anything else.
Perfect. Cheers. Now we've just got 3 more, if that's all right. So on here, again, I guess from more of a personal aspect for yourself, but was there any time within your business journey where you've made a bad decision and you've had to navigate your way out of that? And you're able to give a little information, I guess, behind that?
Every day, really. Loads and loads of mistakes. Like, too many to even count. I bought, like, recently, which is one that's kind of kicking me at the moment, I bought like 15,000 lighters that didn't sell. Terrible idea. And they're just sat in the corner of a warehouse, which is like 10 grand up down the drain, that just kind of sits there and doesn't can't kind of sell them. So that's one of them. Loads and loads of stock buys that I got wrong. Loads of cash flow things that I got wrong. Still to this day, get loads and loads of stuff wrong from Fulfilment, and all the other businesses get loads of stuff wrong. But I think it's just about being honest about that and, like, learning. Like, I don't know everything. Like, I'm very very, very average at kind of most things, but I guess kind of just learning from those mistakes is a good one, and trying not to make as many as what I did, but also just kind of learn from your mistakes and learn from talking to other people. So that was the biggest thing that really helped me. Was in my first kind of warehouse unit, I had around me 5 or 6 different really, really small businesses, and they were all incredibly helpful, even though they were in different fields to me. Like, there was an engine company who sold and restored engines, and the founder of that business was incredibly helpful to me across different things like financing and tax advice and stuff like that. So that's one thing that I definitely encourage you to do, is talk to other business owners who are doing stuff, even if they're not in the same field as you, because most of the time, like 99% of the time, people are up for helping and willing to help.
Yeah, amazing. And then obviously you're now pivoted into more B2B. So what would your advice be to give to a brand starting out in a niche B2B service on how they would gain their first client?
It's quite interesting, really, because we've never spent any money on ads for Fearless Fulfilment. For like the first kind of 10, 12 clients that we got, they were all from referrals. So we'd got our first kind of client in the business, who was myself, and then started to post kind of content on LinkedIn and stuff about that journey. And with the B2B side, I think LinkedIn is a massive asset for that. To post about your story. So for me, it's an easy sell that, I was looking for a film center for my business, but I didn't really like what I was seeing. So I kind of made my own, and then all of my content has been organic and around that. So we've never spent a penny on any form of paid advertising for Fulfilment. It's all been organic through referrals or kind of LinkedIn and outreach and stuff. So to get that kind of first client, I'd kind of get them in without worrying too much about the financial impact, especially if they're small, and then start to learn and post content about that client if they allow you to do so.
And then the last one, which rolls off quite nicely of what you've just ended on there, but how do you encourage customers to post stories, to post that content? Are you incentivizing them, or are you just kind of hoping that your product's good enough for them to post about it?
Yeah, we used to put a QR code on the outside of all the boxes, which was always pretty helpful. So we put like a QR code saying follow us on social on the outside of all of the boxes that we had, which worked really, really well. And then you can kind of offer incentives, so doing things like giveaways and stuff like that, where a random person who posts on the story in the month of November gets a free box or whatever you're selling, and doing things like that. But it does kind of come down to the fundamentals again of having a good product that people kind of love and want to share. That's the main thing that will get people to kind of share it. And also, I think having a bit of personality behind the brand. So having a face behind the brand, or a real mission and a real statement behind what you're doing is an easier way to get people to sort of share your product on their socials themselves.
Amazing. And that's all the questions that we've got, Matty. Really appreciate that. Thanks for that. Is there anything you want to add just before we sign off? Any final words of wisdom?
No, I haven't got that many words of wisdom, mate. That's very, very generous. That's it. Thank you for your time. I've never done anything like this before, so hopefully it was somewhat helpful to somebody. So apologies if not, and I've just wasted 40 minutes of your time.
No, it was really good. Thanks. Cheers, Matty.
Great. Thanks, Matty.
Great. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Matty.
Perfect. Hope everyone enjoyed that. I've just seen those comments come in. Quick one from you, Mihaela, there. I'm looking at Fearless Fulfilment and the mystery box, where the customer reviews. So there, with mystery box, that's his actual latest venture. So that is literally just launched.
Yes, I was there on the mystery box, and it's not a lot of posts on Instagram or Facebook, or they hardly have any followers. So what business are we looking at? I mean,
so his first one is called the Wardrobe Outlet. If you go
the Wardrobe Outlet.
Yeah, so if you go on that website, it's quite minimal at the stage. Like I said, he's not doing
yes.
one at the moment. But that's the one that he built to over $1 million turnover, and then these are his latest ventures that he's trying.
Thank you.
As always, guys, feel free to spam him on LinkedIn. It's Matty Donaldson. I'm sure he's more than happy to get you guys. And if you have any questions, you can just ask him then. Yes, Amy, can your side?
Not really a question, more of more feedback in a way. I really appreciate that you brought someone who is so candid about their business to talk to us, because so many people give you the highlight reel and they don't give you the dirty reality of what it is to build a business. And I feel like he's just brutally honest, which is exactly what we need, because you don't want the varnished fantasy when you are coming at it from a novice's perspective, or from a very new entrepreneur's perspective. So thank you.
Perfect.
It was
really
refreshing.
No, thank you. That's really good to know. Brilliant. Well, for everyone in our group, what we'll do is let's take a quick break. We'll come back at 3 and we'll jump into kind of the rest of the tasks. And then for George and you guys, I'll leave for you if you're jumping straight back in.
Yeah, we need to take a break. So exactly the same for my guys. If you jump back into my Zoom that I've posted at 3 o'clock, and I'll see you guys then.
Amazing. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, guys.